The Game Boy Camera was one of the coolest accessories, in my opinion, that came out for the original Game Boy. Releasing in 1998, this thing looked amazing. It was a toy developed for kids that allowed you to actually take photos with your Game Boy. And then a really cool accessory, you got the Game Boy Color printer as well, so you could print them off, and it was just an amazing bit of kit. I never had this growing up, but I remember seeing it in magazines, and it was always something that I thought, yo, that would be amazing. So a couple of years back, I actually managed to pick up a Game Boy Camera, and I never really used it until recently. So I thought, you know what would be a really good idea? I figured, you know what? Let's go somewhere special. Let's head down to London and check this thing out. I've never claimed to be a photographer or into photography, but do you know what? This thing could be really cool. So let's get on down to London and check this thing out. As soon as I got to London, the first thing that I did was hop on a train, and I thought, I know, I'll just check this out and see what sort of photos it can take with this. And here are the results. So this first shot was actually not too bad. It did pick up some of the outside details, and you could definitely make out the shapes, but it wasn't overly detailed. The next thing I thought, let's go to the London Bridge, and whoa, who's this handsome lad? Yeah, so we went over to the London Bridge and took a really cool shot. Tell me what you think. On this one, I think it was just a little bit overexposed, but you can definitely see the little tower bridge in the background there. It's not too bad. Then we decided to take the subway. There was this really, really cool poster there, and I thought, yeah, that's gonna have to be put through its paces. Let's check this out. Now, I thought this one being quite bold would pick it up quite well, and it didn't do a bad job, but it definitely struggled with some of the details. And we headed off to CX in Camden just to have a look for a few games. We had a little wander around, and then I came across this cool Ray-Ban store, and I thought, you know what? Let's get a photo of that too. Now, this one was one of my favorites. It definitely did a good job in trying to pick up some of the sunglasses. I didn't actually mind this photo at all. It was really decent. One of the most iconic things in Camden is the Camden lock. So I thought, well, let's try taking a photo a bit far away and see how we get on. Again, this one was just a little bit overexposed, but you can kind of make out the Camden lock sign in the background. And both me and Graham got really hungry, so we went for steak and chips. Now, one of the most popular things to take photos of is food, and yeah, I decided that it was a good idea to take photos of our food, so this is how that turned out. Again, for such a detailed photo, this didn't actually do that bad. Don't get me wrong, you can't make out any of the little crispy onions on top, but overall, it looked pretty decent. Then we went over to the Bandai Namco store. Now, the last time I was here, they actually had a Tekken 8 sort of standee statue type thing with two guys fighting, and I was hoping to get a photo of that. But this time around, they actually had a One Piece figure, so you know what? Let's go. Let's check it out. Now, this definitely picked up the abs, no problem. It has some good tones and good definition. After we got some food in Camden, we thought, you know what? As we've had photos of food, what about locations and drinks? So we went to the Illy coffee shop in Kensington and got this really cool little snap here. Again, this shot of the coffee wasn't too bad at all. Next off, we went to Camden, and there was this Lamborghini store, and they had some very, very expensive cars in there. This car was so bright colored that it picked up some of the tones and definitions pretty well. I'd say this was a pretty good shot. Not long after, whilst in Kensington, we went and checked out the Science Museum because they had an event going on there called Power Up, where they actually showcased a lot of these old consoles. And when I say old consoles, I mean consoles that me and Graham both grew up with. And this was a really cool little exhibition. Really enjoyed this. They had everything there. They had your PlayStations, they had your Nintendos, they had everything. They even had like PCs set up. Graham thought he'd test himself out on the bongo drums. Then he found this terrible system called the N64. And then we found my personal favorite, the PS1. So we took a nice little photo of that. Potentially one of my favorites. You can see it actually did a really good job at picking up some of the details on the PS1. You can see the little logo there. You can see the controller ports. I thought this was a fantastic little photo. One of the main reasons why we were in London is because of the fact that there was actually a show going on for Elden Ring. The London Symphonic Orchestra were actually playing a symphonic adventure of the Elden Ring story, where they played the game in the background and they also were having a full orchestra on set doing the songs. It was just mind-blowing. I absolutely adored this. And here's the snap of that. Now, this one was definitely an interesting shot because to be able to get the text there, I had to really kind of mess around with the exposure and I could only really pick up the text. It was obviously a little bit darker in there, so it was a little bit harder to kind of pick up some of the details around and get a decent sort of balance within it. But overall, I'm happy with this photo. So there we go. There are some real world shots for you with the GameBoy camera. Now, I never claimed to be a photographer or claim that I was any good at it, but I can tell you something. The GameBoy camera is a ton of fun to take around, and especially if you go in somewhere fun like a big city. It felt a little bit weird, you know, people pulling out their phones, taking photos of this, taking photos of that, and there's me with my Game Boy. But it was really cool, and I thoroughly enjoyed using it, and it's something I might start taking on trips with me, just because it's a bit of fun. A lot of you may be wondering how I actually uploaded my photos from the Game Boy camera up to my PC. And I used a little GBX cart writer. And basically you put your game in here and there's a little USB slot on there and you plug that into your PC and you can upload it. I originally got this thing a little while ago to basically save a lot of my backups and things like that for different saves of games that I was playing on Game Boy. But lo and behold, I didn't realize that it actually worked with a Game Boy camera too. So anyways, I want to know, what do you guys think of the Game Boy camera? Is it something you'd like to mess about with? It's something that I highly recommend everybody go out and just have a play about with it because it is a ton of fun. It is just, you know, remember, this thing was made for kids to play, take photos with. It's not graphically the most impressive, but there's something about the restrictions that it actually has. The fact that it isn't that powerful. It makes you think a little bit more creatively and a bit outside of the box with it. So I had a ton of fun with it. So anyways, guys, let us know down in the comments below. Is this something you guys would be interested in? I would highly recommend it. And thank you very much for checking out this video. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.